What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Countdown Scouting Network. I'm your host, Joey Garcia, and today we are finally on the quarterbacks summer scouting series. I know you guys have been waiting for this. I've been antsy trying to get to it, but honestly, there are so many quarterbacks in this draft class that do have first round potential. Um, that might be a little generous, but I think there are probably 14 guys that have top 50 potential if they hit their potential this year. So a lot of guys. Let's go ahead and get started because I do have a lot of honorable mentions I want to bring up. Starting at number 5, we got Bo Nix from Oregon. He started as a true freshman against at Auburn. Um, and he was lightning as a freshman. Sophomore year, basically same thing with a couple ups and downs. He had some games where you're like, "Oh my gosh, this Bo Magic is crazy," and other games where it seemed like he cost you the game. He's tightened it up this year at Oregon. I will say he had a rough first game against Georgia. Obviously, it's Georgia who's back-to-back defending national champs who've had in the last 2 years like I don't know, 7 first-round picks from their defense alone. So what do you expect on top of their offensive coordinator came from Georgia, so they kind of knew everything he wanted to do, or defensive coordinator. One of their coordinators went to Oregon and everything, so it was a mess. He is 6'2", 215 pounds. He's got really good mobility. Above average mobility. It's something that's going to help him at the next level. And he's got fine arm talent. It's probably above average arm talent as well. His deep ball accuracy is probably the best trait that he has going for him. The real things we want to iron out this year, and we just want to make sure that it's not something that he's had so many years doing it, where it's like a bad habit that you're going to have to break over time. Is his footwork. His footwork's a little inconsistent. You'll have some times where it's good footwork, other times where it's kind of just like he's sloppily trying to get back there. He's antsy to make a play. Um, other things like that. And then the last thing's decision making. He everything that he does, it feels Baker Mayfield to me, where you see some good plays and you see this and you see that, and then every once in a while there's, oh well, let's just try to make a play, and it's a negative play because you throw too many effort balls. So that's kind of what I see with him. Is a lot of Baker Mayfield. I don't want to compare him to Baker Mayfield, but I'm getting similar vibes to Baker Mayfield as a player. Probably better athlete, has slightly better arm, but everything else is kind of Baker Mayfield. So if that's what you want to think about, that's what you can think about. But if he cleans up this footwork and if he has fewer turnovers this year, uh, you're talking about. I mean, you're talking about a top 50 pick, early second rounder, I think at minimum. So the next guy we got to talk about is Quinn Ewers from Texas. He's 6'2", 205 pounds. Originally a 5-star committed to Ohio State. Transferred to Texas because he was beat out by C.J. Stroud, who ended up being the number 2 overall pick this last year. So now backing him up, they have Arch Manning, the prodigal son. So this is probably his year where he's got to figure out if he's going to be an NFL quarterback or not. And I don't know if it's going to be his decision. But the good news for him is 6'2", 205 pounds. Love to put a little bit more weight on it, but he is above that 200 threshold. He makes outstanding off-platform throws. He knows when he needs to zip it and throw a fastball. Sometimes he'll throw that change up and get it over top of the linebackers. He can throw all those balls. That's awesome. His accuracy, very good as well. Cerebrally, it seems like he's understanding the game and he's processing the defense well. All wonderful things, and he also can throw the sidearm. That's the one thing is it's great you can throw it. He loves the sidearm throws. He loves the flashy stuff. I don't know if that's just this new age quarterback that they watch Patrick Mahomes and then watch all these other guys with the no look passes. It's too much sometimes. Sometimes it leads to inaccuracy. It leads to turnovers, and it's eventually sometimes it leads to batted balls. So I'd love if he could keep his mechanics in line. That's another thing. Is his mechanics are a little wacky. So he has everything that he needs, including the cerebralness, the headspace, and the understanding. But let's get everything compartmentalized. Let's get our mechanics right. Kind of like what we were talking about, Bo Nix, the inconsistency on the footwork. But it's not just footwork. Sometimes it's his hip, it's his shoulder placement, it's the way that he throws the ball. So it's great he can do that stuff, but let's try to get a little bit. Let's do the easy things correctly. You know what I mean? So that's why he's here at number 4. A great talent, though. Here we go. Now we're getting into some fun territory. Cam Ward from Washington State. He was at Incarnate Ward, transferred to Washington State. He's 6'2", 220 pounds. He has a really quick release. It's an elite release. He can throw out of all the arm slots. He's got everything that you need. It's kind of like a baseball player, a shortstop. He can throw the sidearm, like we were talking about with Quinn Ewers. He can throw off platform, but he stays fairly consistent with only throwing those when he needs to throw them. So he can throw them, but he doesn't get overly confident with those. Elite arm, he's got a rocket arm, probably top 3 in the class, I would say. Obviously, Joe Milton, spoiler alert, he has a better arm than this. An elite athlete, you think about Lamar Jackson. He's not on the level of Lamar Jackson, but you think about guys like that, maybe more of a Malik Willis that came out 2 years ago, probably in that range. His lower body mechanics need to improve. Obviously, his accuracy does as well, but that's probably going to be linked to the lower body mechanics. And the last thing that I will dock him on is the system is fairly simple. It's the Washington State air raid system. Everyone knows it. It's a fairly simple system. I'm curious if he can read defenses very well. But he's got all the tools. Let's see if he can kind of mold himself, just like Quinn Ewers. Let's try to mold it a little bit and get more, show some more NFL tape, not all this flashy stuff. Number 2, we have Drake May from UNC. He is 6'4", 220 pounds. Very elite accuracy with his ball placement and everything like that. Kind of reminds me of C.J. Stroud with that. He's got solid mobility, nothing great. Think about C.J. Stroud or Joe Burrow, kind of how they run. You don't think of them as mobile quarterbacks, but they can move around and they can extend things with their legs whenever they have to. He's a playmaker, and he can make all the throws. So he's got all the stuff you want with that. The negatives, I would say, with him would just be, again, everyone with their footwork needs some improvement. He also needs pocket presence. He is a guy who kind of doesn't feel guys coming from the backside. It reminds me a lot of Ryan Tannehill when he came out that last year he was in, or Will Levis this last year coming out, and it's just you kind of don't have the feel of a guy, and we need to speed up our internal clock and get the ball out, or step up, or spin out the pocket and try to create some more timing for our receivers and extend play. So he needs to get. I don't know if you can with the pocket presence. I'll be honest with that. I'm not sure if that's something that can improve. That's something that you just might have to live with. But his footwork is the number one thing right now. Let's improve the footwork. Let's improve decision making as well, I would say. All right, number 1. This is not everyone knew this. This was not a surprise. It's Caleb Williams from USC. People are comparing him to Patrick Mahomes right now. Let's not get carried away. He is, I believe he is still like 16 or 17 years old. But he's 6'1", 215 pounds, and his arm talent's immaculate. I won't lie. He's got probably the best arm talent in the class, and I don't think it's close. We talked about some of these other guys with how good their arms are. It's not close. He feels like a baseball player. If you watched the Netflix series where Patrick Mahomes was talking about baseball and how it made it where it's easier for him to throw this stuff. It feels like that's what it was with Caleb Williams. I didn't look up to see if he was a baseball player or anything like that, but he throws it with a lot of velocity, and it just feels like he's got a lot of that strength in his spine and in his core. He's got good athleticism. Again, he's a guy that can take off and run. I love that he doesn't try to. I love that he uses his athleticism, kind of how Russell Wilson did his first few years in the league, where we're using this athleticism to escape the pocket, to get on the run, to get outside and try to make a play for our guys. His off-script playmaking, what I was just talking about, using that athleticism to extend plays. it's phenomenal. That's some of the best things he does. But it does feel like, again, it's that playmaker gunslinger attitude that a lot of these quarterbacks that we talked about have, is that you trust your receivers and you trust your arms and everything so much that you're throwing into coverage that should not be thrown into. So he throws into double coverage, he throws into lockdown coverage more than he should. At least he's not afraid to make those throws like some of these other guys. They're not afraid to make those throws. Him and Bo Nix especially, they'll throw it into triple coverage if they think there's this much room for them to zip that ball in there. So that's something. Let's see him cut down on those risky plays, and I think he probably will this year. All right, finally, let's get to some honorable mentions. I have 6 here. Let's talk about the first 2. Let's talk about Jordan Travis and Shedeur Sanders, kind of in the same light. So Jordan Travis is a smaller quarterback, but he's very mobile. He's very elusive. He's got a good enough arm. He doesn't have any eliteness to any of his arms. His accuracy's probably slightly below average, maybe average. His underneath accuracy is good, and his deep ball is adequate. It's the intermediate accuracy that I don't really see translating to that next level. But he's mobile. I can see if he can kind of start making some better throws in the intermediate part of the game. I mean, you're talking about this is a guy you'll take in the top 3 rounds. So I had to put him on here. Some guys have him in the top 5. I don't really see him as a top 5 quarterback, to be honest with you. Shedeur Sanders is kind of a guy that I see in that same light. I think he's 6'1", 6'2", like 220 pounds. He runs well, but he doesn't like to run, which is phenomenal. He's got a rocket arm. Him and Joe Milton probably have the next 2 best arms that aren't in the top 5 on the honorable mentions list. But, it's kind of the same thing. As his deep ball is phenomenal. Shedeur Sanders has a great deep ball. Obviously, he's the son of Deion Sanders from Jackson State, transferred to Colorado. He's got a great deep ball. I want to see the intermediate. I want to see him throw it over linebackers. I want to see him do touch passes. Don't really see a lot of that right now. So let's see that. We talked about Joe Milton from Tennessee a little bit. This dude can throw it like 90 yards. I mean, he's got the biggest arm I've ever seen. We talked about Will Levis last year had a strong arm. Anthony Richardson has an amazing arm. Josh Allen, all these guys have great bazookas. Joe Milton, from the rumors, can beat that by like 15, 20 yards of what we've seen. Something incredible. Like 80-something, 90 yards is what he says he can throw. I haven't seen it on tape, but I have seen him on his knees from the end zone throwing it to like the opposite 40. And that's on his knees, so that's not generating a lot of that lower body power. So I kind of believe it. It's incredible. His accuracy is bad. That's the whole reason why Hendon Hooker took over the last 2 years at Tennessee, is because his accuracy. So we'll see if he can kind of hone in that accuracy, because he's a mobile quarterback that's got a cannon launched to his arm. So I want to see that. We'll talk about Jayden Daniels because he was next on the list. I kind of skipped him. Jayden Daniels from LSU, really mobile quarterback, has a solid arm. I want to see him read the field. He wasn't throwing the ball very well last year. There were spurts where he threw some good NFL passes, and then there are other times where it's just I have to use my legs, or I have to throw a deep ball, or I have to throw a bubble because I can't complete any actual NFL throws. So he's a guy who, honestly, it's been like this for his whole career. He probably can't do it. But he's got the athleticism and the arm where if he can somehow tweak it just a little bit where he can be adequate at throwing the ball, I think someone will use a 3rd-round pick on him. Let's go. We got 2 guys left. These are probably the 2 guys that I like the most on this honorable mentions list. Michael Penix Jr. from Washington. He started off, where was he before that? Arizona? I don't know where he was before that. But yeah, he if you turned injuries off, he would be the number 2 quarterback in this draft class, and it's not even close. When he is not injured and he's playing, he is a top 2 to 3 quarterback in college football today. Like, he's that good. he just gets injured a lot. I mean, he's had 2 ACL injuries, an MCL injury, I think a meniscus. He fractured his collarbone, and then he broke an ankle or something like. He's just injured all these years. He's always injured. But those games that he plays, he looks like a Heisman finalist. That's how good it is. He's got the speed, the mobility. He's got a great arm. He's accurate with it. He makes crazy plays off platform throws, off structure. But he's just injured all the time. So if he can put together a year where he is not injured and he passes medicals and he plays the 12, 13 games that they have to play this year, he's honestly, if he passes medicals and he does all that, he's probably a first-round pick. I think a team will take a swing in the back end of the first. If the Giants or someone like that makes the playoffs again, let's take a swing on Michael Penix. And then Sam Hartman. Sam Hartman is a smaller quarterback, but he's got a good enough arm. He is not that mobile, but he's mobile enough. You kind of think of what we talked about with Drake May. He's kind of that kind of mobile. He is smaller with a decent arm, but he can make the throws. He can throw under pressure. At Wake Forest, I was watching him throw under pressure. That offense isn't great. He's going to Notre Dame, where it's going to be an even better offense. I'm excited to see his transition from Wake Forest over to Notre Dame, because I think he can make all the throws. I think he's smart enough. I think he's got enough to him. He's kind of got that moxie, that Gardner Minshew vibe to him. So I'm excited to see what he can do, and I'm excited to I guess that's it. I'm just excited to see what he can do, because he's one of my favorite quarterbacks in college football. That's not like one of those superstar quarterbacks. So that's all I've got for you guys today. Wednesday, we're gonna wait. No, what's today? Today's Wednesday. Friday, Friday we'll go over the top 50 prospects that we've gone over here. We're just gonna rank them. That's all it's going to be. We're going to go through the rankings. And then next Monday, might be pushed to Tuesday, but that one we will talk about. I have a ranking of the power rankings of the NFL. Since that is starting up next Thursday, is the first preseason game with the Browns playing the New York Jets. And then that next Wednesday, so in a week from now, we'll preview that game and just kind of see who we hope to see, mostly undrafted free agents that we're kind of excited about. So appreciate you guys stopping by and watching this video. If you enjoyed it, go ahead and leave a like, subscribe, put down in the comment sections any quarterback that you think I left off this list. We did go over, 11 quarterbacks. And again, I think I left guys off this list that I think are deserving. So go ahead and put them down in the comment section, and we can hash it out in there. So appreciate you guys stopping by. Have a good day. Peace.